Okay, this is the chopstick, the Flugelbauer chopstick, or the through the strings voicing needle. This is a great tool, solid brass, has a hex wrench. Of course, at one end there is a needle coming from the brass that's used to voice piano hammers. The cap itself is designed to accept the other end of the tool and hold it with a couple of O-rings that are inserted into the cap, inside the cap, to hold it snug so that it won't fall off. Inside the cap also is a small hole for holding the hex key for changing the needles on the tool. So it's a very small hex key and a very small screw, but it doesn't take much to hold this needle in place. So insert it into the cap, and of course placed on the other end while you're working. This tool is used to insert through the strings of a grand piano to voice a hammer, to insert into the hammer. And the way that this is done is that first you want to be able to, you want to have something nice and firm to push on. You can just go straight down and push on the hammer and insert it that way. A lot of people, including myself, like to put the hammer into check first. So you would play the hammer and put it into check here. Here's the back check. And to place the hammer into check, and then to push the hammer down and to voice it this way. Like the sugar coater, this is used for doing shallow needling, and of course the hammer will push down against the check and put it farther and farther into a check until it's a more stable surface to work on. So like the sugar coater, this technique typically works on shallow strike point needling, or where the hammer would come into contact with the string. So up at the top of the hammer, or the apex of the hammer, is where you would do most of your needling with a sugar coater. There's many other techniques. Like I said, with the sugar coater, I would spend a lot of time maybe on the back side of the hammer, but you can do some front side as well. And another technique that was taught me by a great technician is to voice down the edge of the hammer, both edges, and if you do that, it will help improve the sustain of that particular note. So if you find a dead note in your piano that's just not giving you a whole lot of life, you can voice down the edges, like I'm doing here, of the hammer, and that would be on the front side of the hammer, and increase the sustain, or open up the tone in the piano, or what's sometimes called the bloom. So it's a great technique, and it's a great tool. You don't have to pull the action out of the piano to use this tool to do voicing. And the nice thing about that is that if you're in a concert situation, or you're tuning the piano before a concert and you find one note that you think needs a little bit of work, simply pull this tool out, which by the way I keep in my tuning kit. Pull this tool out and do what you got to do to get some tone and some life back into that string or that note. So there you go. Great tool when you're done. The cap itself has a spot at the top of the cap to accommodate the needle so that it won't blunt or dull the needle. So simply insert the needle end back into the cap, and it won't come off unless you pull it off. Insert the needle back into the cap and put it away for storage. So there it is, the Flugelbauer through the strings voicing tool, or what we commonly refer to as a chopstick needler, by Flugelbauer Piano Supply.